Hello, everybody. Today's daf is Masechta Baba Basra Daf Kuf Lamed Beis, and we're going to discuss over here again Yerusha over here. And you should know, by the way, Yerusha is one of the only things in the Torah which we don't follow the Torah. Modern times is that when a person dies, he splits his assets with his sons and daughters, even though and you don't give the Bechor Pi Shnayim, even though in Torah it works differently, but we work a way around it in order to keep the peace. So it's there is a nice a nice shear on it on Old Daf from Rabbi Willig. If you get a chance to look in to hear it, it's very nice to understand what we're learning and how it applies Bisman Hazeh. Anyway, let's read the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda. Let's read it, make it bigger. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda said, we're starting from Kuf Lamed Aleph Amid Beis, about like 8 lines from the bottom. Very interesting case. Amar and it's we take things out of context. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, HaKoisef Kol Nechasav LeIshto. Someone wrote, I'm gifting all my assets to my wife. All my possessions go to my wife. Wow, what a nice guy. And he's saying, I'm gifting it. So when we read it after he dies, right, or let's say he's not around, he wrote it, by the way, on his deathbed, and he's gifting it. Now that he died, he didn't mean to exclude his kids from getting anything. We understand that he didn't make her that he's giving it to her. What he meant to say is that he's making her the steward or the executor of the estate, but not that she owns the assets. Very big thing. We take it out of context. And why did he do that? Because he figured that, after he dies, all the assets belong to the kids. They're not going to respect their mother, his wife. So therefore, he wanted them to respect his wife, so he actually made her the steward. But he wrote it wrong. He wrote it in such a way that it looks like he's giving everything to his wife. So now, Pshita, if he wrote, it's understandable, B'nai Hagadol, if he wrote something that he's giving all his assets to his oldest son versus any other son, obviously he didn't mean that he's giving everything to his son. Like aso el apotropos. He only made him the steward. And the reason why he's making his oldest son the steward is because he wants the older kids to respect the older son after he dies. But he didn't mean that everything goes to his older son. B'nai hakotan mai. Let's say he wrote that I'm giving everything to my youngest son, and he's on his deathbed. Maybe he meant it. Maybe he's giving everything to his youngest son. Itma. So we learned, even if it's the baby that's in the bed, in the crib, and he wrote everything is going to that baby, he didn't mean that everything is going to that baby. He meant that that baby is going to be the steward or the executor of the estate, but everything is divided equally amongst the kids. But he just wanted them to respect that baby child. So knowing that he's in charge of the division or the masa matan of the state, so they'll give him respect. Pshita, it's very simple. B'noi va'acher. If you have a son, he's giving everything to his son, or he's giving everything to a stranger. So again, B'noi, when he's giving everything, acher b'matana, when he's giving everything to a stranger, then we say he really meant it. He's gifting everything to a stranger and bypassing giving it anything as inheritance for his kids. So let's say a guy's on his deathbed and says, I'm giving it to the bus driver. So he's actually giving it to his bus driver and bypassing his kids. Ubenoi, but if he's saying I'm giving to one son over other sons, then we understand that he meant apotropos. He meant him to be the executor or the steward of his estate. Let's say he wrote, I'm giving everything to Ishta Arusa Ishta Grusha. I'm giving all my assets to my engaged wife. He wasn't married to her, or my divorced wife. So there's no reason to assume that he wanted these women to be the stewards of his estate. So when he wrote, I'm gifting it to them, he actually meant it, b'matana. He actually meant it that he's gifting it to them. Says the Gemara, Ibaylahu. Let's ask a question. Bas Eitzel Habanim. let's say he gift there's boys, and he wrote a piece of paper that I'm gifting all my assets to my daughter. Or Isha Eitzel Acham. Or let's say he has no other sons, he just has a wife and a bunch of brothers. And he wrote on his deathbed, I'm giving everything to my wife as opposed to my brothers. The Isha Eitzel B'nei Habal. Or he has children from another marriage. And he says, I'm giving everything to my one of my wives, which I have no children with. Mahu. What does he mean? Does he mean that he's gifting everything to them? Or does he mean to make them a steward? In all these cases, the woman doesn't get anything. She doesn't own the assets. Except if he's gifting everything to his divorced wife or his engaged wife, then we say that he made them that he's really gifting it to them. It really means that he's giving it to them because he's no reason to interpret that he only meant that they should be a steward. In all these cases, they acquire the assets. If a guy wrote on his deathbed, I'm giving it to these women, so then they all acquire it. Except in that case, with the wife versus the brothers, or the wife versus the other sons, then we assume that he meant to make them a steward. And the reason why is because he wants his, the stepkids to respect their stepmother. So when he says, I'm gifting everything to my wife, your stepmother, he didn't mean I'm bypassing you as a Yoresh. He's basically saying that that my this wife is going to be the steward of the assets, and therefore you'll show her respect after I pass away. So that's the reason why we would say that we take him out of context. So even though he wrote, I'm gifting it to them, he meant him write that he meant him say that he's a steward. Now, all this is discussion. This guy's on his deathbed. He's in his hospital room writing these notes on a piece of paper. And he's saying, I'm gifting everything. Boya Rava. Rava asked the question. We're on the Kuflam and Bezim and Alf. Bibari Heich. Let's say he's a healthy guy. So, and he says, all my assets belong to my wife. Now, till now you said, when he's a Shchivara, who denichale l'shtame miloi. He wants, the reason why when he's on his deathbed, we take it out of context that he meant to make her a steward, is because he wants them to respect his wife, because knowing after he passes away that she's going to be the executor of his estate, the steward of his estate. So therefore, he doesn't mean to give it to her. He meant to say that she's going to be the steward. Aval Babari, but if he's a healthy guy and he's writing, I'm healthy now. I have another 10 years to live. And he writes on a piece of paper, I'm gifting everything to my wife. He's around. So he probably meant it. And he probably meant it that there's no reason why they're not going to respect her because he's here. So it's his wife. So he actually probably meant that he's gifting everything to his wife. Or maybe Bari Nami Mahashta. Even when he is healthy and he writes, I'm gifting everything to my wife. Okay, he's healthy, he's writing, I'm gifting everything to my wife. He didn't really mean that he's gifting everything to his wife. So why did he write it? He wrote it that she's going to be the steward of the estate after he dies, but he's writing it now so that they'll start respecting, knowing that their mother or whatever, his wife, is going to be the one who's in charge of the estate. They're going to start giving you respect even from now. So Toshma, come in here. Someone wrote, let's say he has a property, and he says the fruits of that property, let's say the rental income, belong to my wife. So now a woman has a ksuba. So the fact that she can keep the rental income from a property that he owns, that doesn't preclude her that when he dies, she can foreclose on the property for a ksuba. So gaiva ksubasam in a karka, she can collect the ksuba from the land because she only owns the fruits while he's alive. So when he dies, she can collect from for her ksuba the actual property itself. Let's say he gifted her half the property, a third of the property, a quarter of the property. So she already owns the property, right? And then he dies. So goyve ksubasa min hasha'ar. Then she collects the ksuba from the other part of the property that she did not yet own when he was alive. What happens? Kosav kol nechosav liishta. A man has like this. A man, when he gets married, has a gives a ksuba to his wife. Then we're going to say the story is going to be like this. He actually took a loan, a huge loan, without his wife knowing about it. But what he did was, then years later, Kosav kol nechosav liishta. He wrote, all my assets belong to my wife. Everything is going to go to my wife. He wrote it belongs to my wife. So now, when she gets it, she's saying, okay, everything is going to belong to me, not just the ksuba. I'm getting it, right? I'm getting it from today, right? Maybe it takes effect today, but she can only really use it after he dies. But he's gifting it. So perhaps by writing all his assets to his wife, she was moichel the ksuba because she has everything. What does she need to foreclose on everything? And v'yatsa olav shtarchoy. But then afterwards, she found out that before he wrote this, that everything belongs to my wife, he actually had an outstanding debt that he didn't pay up. So, but when she got the matana that everything is going to belong to her, she actually thought to herself, you know what? Forget it. I'm moichel the ksuba. Everything is going to belong to me. So Rabbi Lezer says, true. That's what she thought. Tikra matana. So we rip up the gift agreement. The Samad al and she still collect her ksuba because she wasn't meichel it, because she only was meichel the ksuba based on thinking that she's getting everything. Now she knows that there's an outstanding loan here over here. So therefore we rip up the matana. She gets the ksuba, and her ksuba predated the loan. So therefore she'll collect her ksuba. The Chachamim no. Tikra ksubasa v'samad al matnosa v'nimtzis karachas mikan mekan. We rip up her ksuba because by her accepting all nechasav belongs to his wife, when she got that piece of paper, she said, "Forget my ksuba. You can keep it. And everything is going to belong to me." Now she finds out that her husband took a loan that predated this gift, so now she already ripped up her ksuba, and now this loan predates her gift. So now she has nothing. She's bowled from here and here. In other words, she has nowhere to collect her ksuba unless her husband starts making money elsewhere. But so that's the opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Hanachtoim. Here's a very odd Tana in the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda the baker said that the halacha is like the Chachamim, that once a woman gets a gift from her husband that says everything belongs to you, she was meichel ksuba. And that's the way we paskin. This same exact happened. The daughter of my sister, who was a bride, Uva, and her husband wrote everything to her, and it turned out that the husband predated that gift with a outstanding loan. So they said tikra ksubasa. She doesn't get her ksuba anymore, even though her ksuba predated the loan. But after the loan, she got a gift from the husband that everything is going to belong to her. So she was meichel ksuba. The samid al matanasa, she gets the gift, and the gift is being taken over because there was a loan predating it. And karachas makam, she gets nothing. Okay, this is the brisa. So where do we get back to what we're discussing? So Talmud the yatsa olav shterchayv. Let's say the only reason why the woman does not get to keep all the assets is because there was a loan predating the gift. But let's say there was no loan predating the gift, right? Kanya, she would get the assets. A guy writes everything to his wife, and he's a healthy guy. He didn't mean to make her a steward. She gets everything. So that's the implication from the brisa, that she would get to keep it. Ubamai, what are we talking about? What type of a husband is doing this? If you're telling me he's on his deathbed, well, Amrit, you said just now in the beginning of the sugya that when someone writes that he's giving everything to his wife on his deathbed, he meant to make her the steward, but not gifting her everything. Elalav, it must be babarit. When he's healthy, we take his word as is. And we take it as is that he means to gift everything to his wife. So that answers Rava's question. When a person is healthy and writes everything to his wife, we don't assume that he made her a steward. So ends the proof. And says the Gemara, la'olam not b'shchimra. La'olam, you have no proof. Maybe that Bryce is talking about a guy writing this on his deathbed. Ravina Moika Bakula, Ravina Moika Beishta Rusa Vaishta Grusha. Maybe it's talking about his wife, which both Avira, Ravina both say that if you write it to your wife, that's a divorced wife, your divorced wife, and your not yet married wife, when you're writing her all the assets, there you're never making her a steward. You're making her the actual you're gifting it to all to her because you have no reason to make her a steward because you don't even like her and you don't need them to respect her. So it must mean that you're actually gifting it to her. So therefore you have no proof. You have no proof and answer to your question. So again, we're left with the question, unanswered, which is that if a man's healthy and writes everything belongs to my wife, did he mean, we don't know, did he mean to make her steward? And she really doesn't own everything, or did he actually mean to gift everything to her and she gets to keep it? When he's on his deathbed, we certainly say that he means that she's a steward, but not she can't get to keep it all. Amar Rav Yosef Bar Yume, Amar Rav Nachman, halacha. The halacha is like this: by the case when a guy wrote everything to his wife, and then it turned out that he predated the gift with he took a loan. And so the fact is that she accepted that gift. Tikra ksubasai v'saman al matanasai, and it says karachas mekam. She loses her ksuba because when she got the gift, she didn't know about the loan, so she was moichel the ksuba. She knows she got a gift, a piece of paper that says she's getting everything. She was moichel the ksuba. Now she finds out that she's not getting anything. Too late. So lememra, would you Rab Nachman paskin that way? Remember, the Raya also Rab Nachman Basra umdinin. Rab Nachman doesn't go after you assess somebody's mind. Sometimes you you agree to something, and then you find out that had you have known that circumstances, you wouldn't have agreed to that. And it seems from here, Rab Nachman doesn't take that into account because Rab Nachman says, "Too bad. Now she loses her ksuba, even though she probably was Michael ksuba without realizing it." For Tanya, we learned to the Brisa, let's say a person's son went overseas, and he heard that his son died, and he wrote, all my assets belong to somebody else. And then his son comes back. So he gifted everything. Had he known his son was going to come back alive, would he have done such a thing? Too late. The matana is a matana. Rav Shimon says, the gift is not a gift. Like Soban. If he knew his son was alive, he would never have written such a thing. So, and Rav Nachman said that we pass on Shimon ben Asya. That the fact is that we understand that had he known that his son would come back alive, he would have never written everything belongs to somebody else. So, same thing over here. Had she known that there was going to be an outstanding debt, she wouldn't have agreed to be moichel her ksuba. So why did Rav Nachman say that the ksuba is invalid? She was moichel the ksuba. And says the Gemara, Sha'anu Hosam, by the ksuba case it's different. The Nichalei, the Tepakala Koila, the Kasavinin Nahalai Lahanu Chosam. When she got that document, she was willing to take that risk. That even though the risk that maybe there's an outstanding debt she doesn't know about, but she liked the fact that she was gifted everything because she got a name that her husband trusts her for everything. See, she can show all her friends in shul that, you see, my husband wrote on a piece of paper that everything is going to belong to me. Now she agreed to that, and we assume that she's okay with that, taking the risk that perhaps her husband took out a loan and did not pay it back, and it's not for sure that he's not going to pay it back. Maybe he'll have money to pay it back. So she took on that risk, and therefore we said that the fact that she accepted that agreement, she was moichel the ksuba. Another topic about moicheling the ksuba, Tanan Hasim, we learned in the Mishnah. Hakoisef nechasav lebanon. If he was dividing up his assets to his son, and now he knows his wife has a ksuba. And he said, oh, my wife, you can take this little piece of land. Ibda ksubasa. She lost her ksuba. She can't collect the ksuba from the sons. Now, we didn't hear explicitly that she was moichel the ksuba. But the fact is that she was there. He's dividing everything up. So now when he dies, she can't collect the ksuba from the assets, from the property that he gave his sons. So the Gemara asks, how does that work? Mishum the cost of la karka kolshu ibdik ksubasa, the fact that he gave her a little piece of land, she lost her ksuba. Rav said, she was there when he was giving it to her sons, and she actually made the kinyan on the behalf of her sons. Or she helped out in the kinyan so her sons could be kind of that piece of land. So she was an active participant in this division, and therefore that's as if she was Michael her ksuba. Shmuel says, Shmuel says that it doesn't have to be that she actually assisted the division. She was there when he wrote it up and said in front of his wife, "This land goes to my kids over here, and you're getting this small piece of sidewalk." And she's quiet. The fact that she was quiet says she's Moichel the Ksuba. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina Oma ba'omer tli karka zu b'ksubech. He actually told her. It doesn't that the Rice is talking. The Mishnah is talking about. He actually said, "Oh, take this land, and that's going to be your ksuba." We go to Amud Beis. Umekule ksuba shanikan, and this is one of the coolest of ksuba. That really a woman is very easily moichel her ksuba. Why? Because a woman wants to remain married more than a man wants to remain married. So the fact that she didn't protest, I want my ksuba, we say that she was moichel the ksuba, as you know, she didn't want to start a fight with her husband, which could lead to divorce and everything like that. So we assume that even though she was silent about this whole thing, and all she got when he divided up his assets, a little piece of land, we say she was moichel the ksuba. So the Gemara, now we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi Omer in Kibla Lea Alpha Pishle Kosovla Ibdik Subasa. Rabbi Yossi says that disagrees with the Tanakama, and he says that we have to hear her beferish saying, I'm giving up on my ksuba, even if she got nothing in return. She lost the ksuba. Michlal, from the fact that Rabbi Yossi said such a statement, we're going to assume that Tanakama, who's more machmir on Rabbi Yossi, holds that the only way she loses her ksuba is ksiva v'kabbalah baya, that she actually got something, which is the karka, the little piece of land, the sidewalk, the kabbalah baya, and she has to accept that she has to beferish say that she was Michael Ksuba. And all these Tanoim say no, that the Tanakama does not hold that she has to beferish Michael Ksuba. So that's a very strange thing. You just told me that according to the Tanakama, you don't have to be Michael Ksuba. Are you going to say that everything goes according to Rabbi Yossi? And the whole Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says in the beginning of the Mishnah that Ksiva is alone without actually saying I'm Michael my Ksuba, or Michael without getting anything in return also works. But Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda, Masai. When does it work? She was there, and Rabbi Yehuda always explains the Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda says, according to the Tanakama, you actually have to kibla aleha. The kibla aleha. She has to really accept that she's Michael Ksuba, as long as you don't hear it from her mouth. She was there, but you never heard from her mouth that she was Moichel Ksuba. So here you see clearly that Yehuda says that it makes no matter. She has to be there when he divides up the assets, and has to say, I protest. As long as she doesn't say that, she did not lose her ksuba. So tiyufte dekula tiyufte. So it's a refutation against all these tanoim, because all the Amoraim wanted to say that a woman, just by her silence alone, forgoes her ksuba. And this is again. So a guy. Amalei. One more point. Amalei Rava Rav Nachman. Rava said to Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman held like Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi held, according to the way the Gemara learns, Rabbi Yossi actually held that just writing it and being silent, even though the Rabbanan held not so, but Rabbi Yossi held, according to Rav Nachman, that just by being silent, you are Moichel Ksuba. Rav, Hashmuel, Rabbi Yossi B'Chnini, Mar Masvirle, Amalei, I hold like this. Shani Yoima, Kivin Sha'aso, Shutef Bein Habonim, Idu Ksubasa. She's as soon as she saw him dividing it up, and she was getting a little piece of land, and she was silent, she lost her ksuba. It maname Amrav Yossi Bar Minu Amrav Nachman Kivin Shasa Shuta Ben Abonim Ibdo Ksubasa. She loses her ksuba. So that's the point that you got to remember over here. She lost her ksuba. She lost her ksuba just by being silent. Again, the whole point over here is the guy's on his deathbed and says, "Oh, I'm giving all these properties belong to these kids, and my wife should take this sidewalk, this little piece of land." The fact that she didn't protest means she agreed to the whole thing, according to Rabbi Yossi, and Rav Nachman Paskin this way, and she lost her ksuba. So now the question is, one last question. Baboy Rava asked the question. Bibari Heich, let's say he was a healthy guy. Was she Michael her ksuba? Me Hamrin do we say B'shchimrahu di yarded lesle v'kamachla when he's on his deathbed and she heard him say that all the boys take this property and she's getting a sidewalk. Okay, she was Michael it. Ava Babari when he's healthy and saying that maybe she's thinking I don't want to start something now. I'm not really Michael it. The fact I'm not going to say anything because I know he's maybe going to get more assets. I'm not worried about it. Sadakani that he knows that he's going to get more assets, so therefore he's not worried. She's not worried about losing her ksuba because she assumes that there's going to be a property when I'm ready to collect my ksuba. Dilma, or maybe Hashtamias Leslie, but right now he doesn't have a property. So why didn't she protest? If she's not protesting because she agrees, and so maybe she loses her ksuba. So that's a question, and the Gemara leaves that unresolved. We're going to just continue on this conversation tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.